are back for a brand new season of Formula 1, and it all starts with the FIA as they have come out with a press conference releasing a bunch of new information for all of us to hear. First things first, the FIA have officially confirmed that new DRS zones will be added to multiple circuits. The FIA believe that with more DRS zones it can create closer wheel-to-wheel racing. Basically, the FIA have finally understood that as the course of this season and last season has gone on, a lot of the teams have got much better engines than others, and some drivers are consistently stuck behind another car because their engine is just not quite as powerful. Now, of course, this has been argued that, well, if the manufacturer doesn't have a good enough engine, that's not necessarily the manufacturer that's got the better engine's fault. What the FIA want is for drivers to be able to still capitalise and be able to continue to have that close wheel-to-wheel racing. They still believe it is the best way forward. The FIA have also confirmed in their press conference on Thursday that there are new regulation changes that are being finalised for next season. Now, the reports are coming out that the regulation changes are set to slow down the cars, as they believe now that the FIA believe that the cars are just getting a little bit too fast and potentially dangerous when it comes to any form of high-speed collision. So it looks like we might be seeing cars getting slower from next season, but we're not quite sure just yet. But obviously, that is it for the press conference coming out from the FIA. The two biggest forms that there is going to be new DRS zones coming to multiple circuits, with those tracks that have only got 2 DRS zones being analysed to see if they can add a third, and the regulation change that is going to be coming in next season, which we're not quite sure of everything yet, but it's definitely going to be slowing down the cars from what we can hear. Taking a look at the race news then for the first weekend of the brand new season, it was McLaren that shocked the paddock by topping the timesheets in Australia. Now, in pre-season testing, McLaren were hiding a little bit of pace from the rest of the field, but it was clearly Audi that looked like the outright favourites. And speaking of them, they actually struggled to get going in practice, really underperforming and pretty much being behind Jaguar as well in the pecking order. Aston Martin, though, in terms of the other teams, were happy with their one-lap pace. They didn't do a lot of running for the race itself in terms of race pace, but for their one-lap pace, they looked fine. One team that was really shocked was Red Bull with Max Verstappen's pace. They were so surprised with the pace that Verstappen was able to get on the long runs and also on the short runs, as Red Bull were expecting to be near the back of the field with their car just not being good enough at this stage, but Verstappen showing why he's got everything it takes to be a great driver. Unfortunately, he just doesn't have a great car. And Ford were also impressed as well, as they look to take advantage of their brilliant tyre wear throughout the course of the Grand Prix. In terms of their race pace, they were able to keep their average lap time on the soft compound tyres extremely consistent and for a longer period of time compared to other teams. So expect Ford to do a longer stint on their soft compound tyres as they look to take advantage heading into the first round of the season. It's the Australian Grand Prix. Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Foxydude here, and welcome to a brand new season of the F1 journey for you guys today here on the channel. We are here for season number 7 in the Ferrari. If you guys end up enjoying today's video, feel free to drop it a like, and as it says on my goddamn halo, subscribe, okay? Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, okay? If you want to go follow Carlos Sainz, it's on the halo. If you want to go follow me on Twitter, it's on the halo. I've got everything plugged on the halo, and it's there forever, alright? So judge me, but here we are then, in my beautiful scarlet red Ferrari, looking for some redemption this season. If you guys obviously didn't watch the pre-season video, by the way, loads of you watched the pre-season video, which I was really happy about. It went straight to #1 on my recent uploads in terms of like viewers, which is absolutely amazing. So I really appreciate that. So if we get anywhere near the same support as that, it'd be absolutely awesome. So first qualifying lap then, we actually had a bit of a mare, and then it got worse for us because here was Sergio Perez now. I wasn't expecting him to go for a late lunge, so I wanted to just cover off the corner and not let Perez through, but we ended up crashing. It was quite embarrassing. I went backwards here, so only on the replay cameras did I see how much of a turd I kind of was, really. I kind of turned in when I didn't think he'd send a lunge, and we do actually get a 5-place grid penalty for that move, which is fair enough. After I watched the replays, I was just there like, oh dear. But here we are then for my personal best lap of the weekend. Obviously, this Ferrari car at the moment is not up to the scratch and standards of the front runners of McLaren, Audi, and also Jaguar. So we've just got to see where we can try and get ourselves in the mix here now as we go and fly through the end of the first sector here. And like I said before, obviously the first time we were at Ferrari was in my second season of the F1 journey, and it only lasted for half a season due to contract scandals and hierarchy knobs. But obviously that's all been casted aside, and now I'm looking to get my proper go at Ferrari because I never got that opportunity until now. So I'm really grateful for the Scuderia for allowing me to come and join this team once again and allow us to put things right after they went wrong through no fault of my own. And also through no fault of most of Ferrari, because obviously only a few members knew about the contract scandal. But here we are then, coming around the last corner here. We're about 1.8 seconds up on our personal best lap time. That's going to go even further up, because obviously we lost our front wing right at the very end. So we crossed the line, and it's going to be P8, drop us to P13. Alright then, here we go then. It is time for the F1 journey to make its return. We are here for the 91st race of the entire F1 journey season. And we're here for season number 7 now of the F1 journey. As you can see, we have got light cloud for this race, around about 20.3 degrees, so nice and toasty if you want to go catch yourself a tan here at Albert Park. The 3.295 mile circuit is yet to host a Formula 1 race under the new F1 regulations of these super lightweight cars. And as you can see, we're lapping in the 1 minute 13s. Is that going to prove a problem for overtaking? We're just going to have to wait and find out. But as you can see, we've got the soft, the medium, and the hard compound tyres for us today. And of course, there is obviously the choice for the wet tyres, but we're not expecting them. When are we actually going to get wet weather in the F1 journey? Like, it's literally just not happening in terms of race trim. Happens in qualifying, though. And obviously, this safety car loves to spice things up in a race. But will it spice it up? We'll have to wait and see. But as you can see then, let's have a look at the grids and see what we've got going for us then here today. It is my cousin Reese on his debut for McLaren on pole position with Charles Leclerc and his debut at Audi on the front row. Sam lines up P3 ahead of George Russell in 4th place for the second Audi car. Daniel Ricciardo is P5 for McLaren with Lando Norris in P6 for Jaguar, are the top 3 teams covering those places. Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel for the Mercedes-Benz team lining up P7 and P8. Verstappen is in 9th. Nick de Vries for Aston Martin is in P10, a cracking qualifying for him. Valtteri Bottas is 11th ahead of Gasly in the Ford in P12. Then comes us in P13 with Hulkenberg down in 14th place. Next up after that is going to be Pascal Wehrlein in the second Porsche car with Noah James down in P16 for the other Ford driver. Esteban Ocon is in P17 ahead of Sergio Perez in P18. And then a very shocking back row, Sainz, my teammate, 19th, and Mason Wood down in P20. We've already discovered that Sainz is seriously struggling with this underperforming Ferrari, whereas I've had quite a few underperforming cars in my time in the F1 journey, and I'm able to just get everything I can out of them. But then, you know, that's AI's view. They're a little bit weaker, but hey ho, it is what it is. Anyway, though, let's get straight into the first race of this new season. We've got 5 red lights, and it is obviously now lights out, and away we go then. For the start of Season 7, we instantly pass Valtteri Bottas in the Renault, who's on those medium compound tyres. Now towards the first corner here, swooping around the outside of Gasly in the Ford. Then we get Nick de Vries in the Aston Martin. Now we're all of a sudden side by side with the 2 Mercedes cars now. Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. Verstappen has also passed them now as we go through in towards turn 3 here. And now we're going to get through both Mercedes cars, and we're straight up into P8 then at the start of this Australian Grand Prix. So where we initially qualified, we're now back where we were. So, hey ho, there you go. That nullifies the 5-place grid penalty in an absolute instance. But Verstappen already clearing off. But on the minimap then, we looks like we've got Reese still in the lead. But I think one of the Jaguars, must be Sam, has managed to move himself up into 2nd place in front of the 2 Audi cars, who of course we're expecting to be absolutely rapid. Maybe they'll be rapid later on in the Grand Prix as things obviously only just start to settle down. But if we now go through in towards the middle sector here, back in slides a little bit as we take too much curb there. Hamilton now fancy to run at us here going towards the end of this straight. Now we're going to have to go a little bit defensive here, but not too much there. So, the back end really coming out now. Once again, this Ferrari seems a little bit oversteery in these initial phases of this Australian Grand Prix. And again, going a little bit wide through the sector last corner. It's been a very scruffy final sector, and it's going to get even more scruffy because the rear end of my prancing horse fancy stepping out again. And now Hamilton here is going to have a run at us though in towards turn 1. It's not going to work out for him though, so we can go back and have a look at the race start now. So here we are then. As the 5 lights go out here, you can see that it's pretty ordinary. Reese gets a very nice getaway from pole position there. As for us, though, we got a very nice start, and we're able to make it through. And we can see that it is one of the Jaguars that did get ahead. But you can see we just had the outside line, and we were able to just swoop through. If we took the inside line, we wouldn't have been able to have carried that momentum. Now we're going towards side-by-side here with Lewis Hamilton, and eventually we actually have to go onto the grass a little bit there to make the overtake stick. But luckily, we've just got enough grip here to get through and pass Lewis Hamilton quite easily there. So a very nice overtake there. This is on board with Sam now. So Sam was the man that started third on the grid, but instantly gets past the Audi of Charles Leclerc in towards the first corner here. As he goes in towards the first corner, he's through. Lovely start there from Sam, and he's in front now, and he can try and see if he can get after Reese and make a move on him there in his new look Jaguar as he goes down in towards turn 4. Max Verstappen start now, and of course Verstappen got in front of both Mercedes cars. So again, a brilliant start for Verstappen as he goes in towards the first corner. Again, he's doing what I did. He goes around the outside, a little bit of contact between him and the Mercs, but it's absolutely fine. Verstappen is through, and that puts him up into 7th place in this Grand Prix. And apart from that, he's absolutely fine. I don't know why he's just revving it out. The AIs are very weird with the gear changes on this game because I've modded the cars so fast. So they literally are just in 8th gear everywhere, and they're fine. But here we are now on board with Lewis Hamilton and Pierre Gasly. Gasly in the Ford now, trying to have a look around the outside in towards the chicane there, but Hamilton having absolutely none of it. But Gasly now with the straight line speed of that Ford, flying through towards the ladder sector here as he tries to barge his way past Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton having absolutely none of it. Still Vettel in the background there, attacking or being under attack there from Nick de Vries as Gasly once again gets held up then by Lewis Hamilton. It's quite clear here that Gasly in that Ford car has got some great pace now, albeit that Ford is an absolute rocket ship in a straight line. And when I mean rocket ship, I mean a rocket ship. Here comes Gasly once again now towards the inside line here on Lewis Hamilton as he goes through now. Very close stuff there between Gasly and Hamilton. We're just pulling away there, just in front of this lot now. But as we now go on to the next straight here, Gasly now tries to have a look at Hamilton down the inside in towards this corner, but Hamilton has that outside line which he's able to swoop through, and then he can cover it off by going towards the inside line. But a little bit later now, one lap later here, Gasly this time around will have DRS now swoop towards the outside line as he initially went for that inside line, and he's now going to be able to carry the momentum round, take the inside line for the next corner. But Hamilton again defending very, very nicely, and Gasly has no chance of getting through there. But Gasly gets a great exit out of the corner, and now as he goes through in towards the end of the first sector, Gasly holds it around the outside. That's a lovely overtake there from Pierre Gasly. He's through past the Mercedes-Benz driver. Hamilton has a little look. Vettel now fancies a run at Lewis Hamilton. He's going to go down the inside though. It's Sebastian Vettel in fairness to him, and he's going to just about not make it through, unfortunately, for Vettel. He'll have to wait a little bit longer. But now as we go towards the turn 11, 12 chicane here, well, Vettel have a look. He really wanted to have a look there. You could just see how he was desperate to find a way through there as Hamilton now on this back straight here. As you can see, de Vries now fancies a run. Is that de Vries? Yeah, it is. Nick de Vries fancies a run at, he's got past, wait a second, de Vries, calm it down a minute. De Vries has just got through, no he didn't get through anyone. Vettel has managed to overtake Hamilton, but de Vries went for an absolute dive bomb and a half there on a bunch of the drivers. It didn't work out though, but back at the front now. This is on board with Sam and Charles Leclerc here. Leclerc now with some DRS is attacking Sam for second place now in this Australian Grand Prix. Reese there leading the pack and pulling away now out front in the McLaren as Sam there is having to hold off Charles Leclerc in the Audi car. So Sam under a little bit of pressure, not quite as quick as the two Audis at this stage of the Grand Prix. Leclerc once again now goes for some DRS, but Sam covers the inside line there, and that doesn't allow Leclerc then to gain any more momentum to get through there. So Sam doing a great job of holding up the rest of the field there. Lap 8 of the Grand Prix now. We're just carrying on our way, really. We're trying our best to close up to Verstappen. The top 6 are in another dimension. We ain't getting anywhere near them today. We've got a yellow flag in the background there, so someone has had an issue. And I'm just trying to have a look at the minimap. It looks like one of the Mercedes cars has had a problem. Now, Mercedes had a huge issue with reliability in pre-season testing. And it's the man on his debut here, Sebastian Vettel, in the Mercedes-Benz, is out of the Australian Grand Prix. The car was unreliable in pre-season testing, and it's unreliable again here now. And unfortunately, there's my teammate Sainz, who's literally embroiled in the back of all that now. Lap 9 of the Australian Grand Prix, and bad news is coming my way because Pierre Gasly, somehow in that Ford, is absolutely flying, and he's catching me at a vast rate of knots here. My soft compound tyres are gone, and you can see we're actually coming into the pit to the end of this lap anyway now to fit on a brand new set of hard compound tyres here. But Gasly now has got DRS here, and that Ford is the fastest car in a straight line out of anyone on the grid, and we're one of the slowest, so it doesn't bode well for me in this race, but we'll give it our best shot as we fly through now in towards the end of the lap. Though we are going to come into the pits on this lap, a little bit shaky there as we try and get through into the pit lane, getting onto the grass ever so slightly. But as you can see, we're now coming into the pits here, and we're going to get our set of hard compound tyres on. Verstappen also covers me off then, so he could have stayed out a little bit longer, but I decided to box now for the hard compound tyres here, and we are in, and now we can get back out again. Verstappen just in front there, and some of the front runners, I think, as well, are also pitting. Also, what you would have seen as well is that there are no little lower third graphics showing each other's names. Basically, Sam makes those graphics. Also wasn't enough time. He's pretty busy at the moment, and I told him in terms of replay cams, no one will really cry if they're not here today, because I can tell you which drivers are where, because I've got great memory. So next time around, or maybe, you know, race 2 or 3 or whatever, you'll have the little graphics to show which driver you're currently seeing on the replay cams. But for now, Sam just needs a little bit more time to make those, and I'm happy to just, you know, go ahead with what we want. But anyway, enough of those graphic things aside. Probably should have said that at the start here. Gasly's overcut has worked. He stayed out a lap longer, and unfortunately for me, it's cost me, as Leclerc here is going to go down the inside of Sergio Perez. So Perez on the medium compound tyres, doing a one-stopper, but starting on the mediums instead, has been compromised here. But crucially for Leclerc, he's got in front of Sam, so whether he's done that in the pit stops, or whether he's just done that on track, never caught it. But unfortunately for Sam, he's lost out to one of the Audi cars there, as we see Bottas now fighting against Nico Hülkenberg with Reese right in the background here. And this is really going to hurt Reese now, because Reese here is the race leader. Leclerc is now catching him on those medium compound on his tyres, sorry. And he's getting very close to him, but onto lap 12 of the Grand Prix now. Something clicked when we went onto these hard compound tyres. On the soft tyres, I didn't really have that much pace, but as soon as I then chucked on the hard compound tyres, I found a lot of pace here, and now we're catching Gasly at a vast rate of knots. Can we go for it now? Down the inside and get back that P8 on Gasly. Not quite, no. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer, but now we're going to have the second bite of DRS here on this back straight. Now towards turn 3 here. Gasly clearly turning the engine down, saving a little bit, locks up slightly. We go down the inside of Pierre Gasly and back in front of the Ford driver for what is P11, should be a net P8, because we were obviously behind Verstappen. But crucially, we're finding some pace now on these hard compound tyres, and that's what I'm liking a lot. Lap 15 of the Grand Prix now, we've now actually dropped Pierre Gasly by a couple of seconds, and we've now caught up to the back of Max Verstappen, and we are in P7 now. So, somewhere in all of this, one of the Audi cars, it looks like on the minimap, has had to stop again. So either Leclerc or Russell has had an issue, but now as we get it close to Verstappen, we go a little bit wide though in towards the exit of turn 1 then, and that compromises our run in towards turn 2, even with the DRS and Rich Mixon overtake. Unfortunately, we're just not close enough, but what I've realised, the Red Bull is probably maybe actually a little bit slower than us in a straight line, which is quite surprising. So, if we can just get that exit right, we should be fine. I'm not very good on the exit of the last corner, so I'm tempted to try and do what we did with Pierre Gasly, but I need to get the job done quickly before I start running out of time to do it. Again, back end sliding a little bit. We'll use some ERS and also Rich Mixture to get as close as we can to the back of Verstappen. Now we break around about here in towards there. Turns 1 and 2, absolutely fine. Now we're right in the slipstream of Verstappen, opening up the DRS here, going towards the inside line and absolutely breezing past the Red Bull driver up into 6th place now in this Australian Grand Prix, and we are through on Verstappen, and now we just got to pull away from him as we now press onwards in this Grand Prix. As you can see, he is a long way clear. Back at the front though, Sam here is under pressure from Daniel Ricciardo, but Ricciardo is under pressure from Lando Norris now, who goes around the outside here, does Lando Norris on Daniel Ricciardo. This is a great move from Lando Norris if he can make it stick, but Ricciardo holds it around the outside and says that you are not passing me there, and Norris has to wait a little bit longer for his overtake to come. He has another look, but Ricciardo fending off quite nicely as Sam now begins to pull away just in front of these two. I believe this is a battle for P4, I think. Yeah, P4 and P5, because then I'm next down in P6 here as Norris now gets a nice run off the exit there. He's going to have DRS on this straight to attack Daniel Ricciardo as they go down the inside now. Lando Norris, can he make this move on for P4 in this Grand Prix? Yes, he can. He's up into 4th place now for Jaguar. Daniel Ricciardo drops to P5 there, as there's a little bit of a shame there. Meanwhile, though, further back and further on in this Grand Prix, this is Max Verstappen now versus Pierre Gasly. And when I said the Ford was a rocket ship, that's what I mean by a rocket ship. It absolutely flew up to the side of Max Verstappen then, but Verstappen is much braver on the brakes than Pierre Gasly, and he holds on for a little bit longer. But with that straight line speed from that Ford, how much longer? Well, not too much, because here comes Gasly again, this time to the inside line, and side by side with Verstappen, a little bit of lock up there from Max Verstappen, but Gasly gets through on Verstappen, and that is Gasly now up into 7th place as he now finds some pace. Verstappen clearly losing a bit of pace now in these later stages of the Grand Prix. One of the Mercedes cars there of Hamilton, who's got, of course, because he's the only Mercedes driver left, is catching him. But apart from that, there was nothing really else to report, especially from my front. Lap 29, the final lap of the Grand Prix, calm it down. Yeah, the top 5, bar one of the Audi cars who had to stop again, were just in a completely different dimension. So there was no way that I was ever going to challenge any of them. Even if I got in front of one of them, I would have only been able to defend it for a little bit of time. But we started the race from 13th on the grid, and we're going to come across the line to get the best of the rest. Round number 1 ends, and we'll take that. It's going to be P6 for the Australian Grand Prix. It's not a bad race result, but it just shows that we've got a hell of a lot of work to do if we're going to challenge the front runners. But as you can see then, Reese does manage to win the Australian Grand Prix on his debut for McLaren. Charles Leclerc finishes the race in 2nd place on his debut for Audi, and he only finished half a second behind Reese. Those two got very close at the end of the race. Unfortunately, though, they were not able to find a way past one another. Sam finishes the race in 3rd place, exactly where he started as well, with only 2.1 seconds behind in the end. He did drop back from the top 2, but eventually he actually closed that gap back up again. Daniel Ricciardo managed to finish the race in P4, so despite Lando Norris getting past Daniel Ricciardo, somewhere on the replay cams which I didn't catch, Ricciardo managed to re-overtake him and finish 4th for his home Grand Prix for McLaren. Norris in P5. We managed to finish in P6, but as you can see, 25 seconds was that gap between myself and Reese at the checkered flag. That's a big margin that we now need to address moving forwards. Gasly finishes in 7th place for Ford. Remember, Ford didn't score a point last season, so that's pretty impressive that they've managed to do that. Verstappen in P8 ahead of Hamilton in P9, and then Noah James for the 2nd Ford car got P10, so both Fords got points today. Also, Gasly didn't get the fastest lap, and the 7 points that are on the board that I've just literally seen right now, I haven't even added those on, so it's absolutely fine. George Russell got the fastest lap with 1 minute 13.898, but as we can see in the second half of the table right now, he actually finished outside of the top 10, so Bottas got P11 for Renault, Russell got P12 for Audi, so Russell somewhere had to have stopped again. So clearly, when they were attacking traffic, when I didn't catch it on the cameras, he's obviously damaged his front wing and has had to stop again. So unfortunately, that's cost him points today. Hulkenberg and Verline, 13th and 14th for Porsche. Sergio Perez, 15th for Aston Martin, ahead of my teammate Sainz in 16th for Ferrari. Mason Woods, 17th for Red Bull. Nick De Vries, great qualifying, not a good race though, unfortunately. 18th place for him. Ocon is 19th, with Vettel the only driver to DNF in P20. Looking then at the Drivers' Championship, well, it's going to literally just be the same. It's not going to have changed at all. So Reese obviously leads the championship with 25 points. Leclerc, Sam, Ricciardo, Norris, myself, Gasly, Verstappen, Hamilton, Noah. The next race is going to be the Chinese Grand Prix, and as you can see on the screen there as well, you can see that Gasly has got 6 points on the board. So I didn't actually add it, even though I forgot to change it on the other one, but it is what it is. But that's the Drivers' Championship. It's literally the same as the top 10. Constructors' Championship, though, Vodafone McLaren lead the Constructors' Championship. They're on 35 points, with Panasonic Jaguar in 2nd place with 27 points. Audi are on 18 points. Quite costly, actually, that only Leclerc scored today, because they could have been a lot higher up. Ferrari are 4th in the championship. We've only got 8 points to start with. It's going to be very tough for us to compete in the Constructors' Championship. Ford, though, are on 7 points. Already 7 points better than last season. With Red Bull on 4 points and Mercedes on 2. But there are all of the championships done for today. Let's go and have a look at the first post-ratings notebook of the season and see what the teams and drivers had to say. Taking a look then at the post-race notebook after today's Grand Prix, Reese wins the Australian Grand Prix on his McLaren debut. McLaren ending their drought of victories in Formula 1 after they didn't actually score a single victory last season. Charles Leclerc on his debut for Audi pushed Reese all the way but ended up half a second behind. Ferrari were delighted with Tom's performance as he managed to pick up P6 in the Australian Grand Prix thanks to some good overtaking on track and also his start. But Tom says there's nothing to be delighted about finishing P6 in a Ferrari. Another man that was also frustrated was Sam. He believes that there's a lot of work to do with Jaguar. Sam qualified in 3rd and finished in 3rd, but he didn't feel like he was in any way, shape or form able to compete with Charles Leclerc and Reese, who he believes Audi and McLaren have got a stronger package. And then Charles Leclerc admits that the race start, he believes, cost him a chance at victory at the Australian Grand Prix. We saw that after the first round of pit stops, Leclerc was able to get back in front of Sam after fighting hard against him in the opening stint when Sam got the jump on him at the start. Leclerc believes if he didn't lose out to Sam at the start, he may have been able to get the jump on Reese instead at the first round of stops, so he ended up failing to overtake towards the end of the race. But that is it for the F1 journey, round number 1. Next time around, it is the Chinese Grand Prix, so hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Take care all.